I thought paying off their mortgage would finally heal things. My father scoffed. So you think that fixes everything? My mother whispered. He's still a disappointment. I didn't say a word, just slid the receipt across the table. You paid it off? Javier huffed, barely looking up from his mug. And you think that fixes everything? I blinked, my fingers still curled around the edge of the receipt I'd folded so carefully before tucking it into the envelope. I hadn't even sat down yet. Rosa took a slow sip of her tea, then said it softly, almost tenderly, but it cut deeper than anything I'd heard in years. He's still a disappointment. I didn't respond, didn't flinch. I just reached into my coat pocket, pulled out the letter, and placed it on the table. No dramatic speeches, no pleas for acknowledgement. Never again seeking their approval. They read it in silence. First Javier, his jaw tensing slightly. Then Rosa leaned in, her lips parting as she reached the second line. And then they both went pale. But you want to know how we got here? Why someone would spend 6 years paying the mortgage on a house they weren't even welcome in? Why someone like me, the selfish one, the ungrateful son, the failure, would break their back for parents who never missed a chance to remind him how much of a burden he was? I used to think loving meant sacrificing, that if I gave enough, someday they would finally say, "We're proud of you." But now I know they never expected me to be good enough. They just expected me to be useful. And the day I ceased to be useful, they discarded me. It wasn't dramatic. It was cold, efficient. Lucia called a family meeting, one I wasn't even told about until the last minute. When I walked in, she was already seated at the head of the table like a judge, ready to deliver her verdict. "You don't belong in this family," she said, arms crossed. "You've always been a problem." Rosa didn't even look up from her tea. "She's right," Javier mumbled. "Maybe it's for the best." He continued scrolling on his phone. No one stopped me when I left that night. No one even asked where I was going. They didn't care. But the mortgage? I kept paying it anyway. Why? Because I wanted them to see it. To finally see it. I thought if I paid off their house, I'd prove them wrong. That I wasn't the failure they always said I was. That I was the one holding it all together even after they cut me off. But I was so wrong. Because when I handed them that letter, the one that would change everything, all they saw was their control slipping away. And for the first time in my life they were afraid. They say time heals all wounds. I say time teaches you who keeps inflicting them. I was 23 when I started paying their mortgage. I had just landed my first serious job in intermediate operations at Translogistica Iberica. Nothing fancy, but it had benefits and a steady paycheck. I still remember the call. "Your father had a little setback," Rosa said. "Work is slow. We might fall behind on the house if we're not careful." She made it sound small, like it was just a few months, like it was no big deal. "Of course," I replied. "I can help." And so I took on the first payment, then the second, and the next. That was 6 years ago. 6 years sending thousands of euros a month to a joint account until things stabilized. 6 years without vacations, without new clothes, without birthday celebrations. Without, because who wants to explain that at 30 you're still paying your parents' mortgage? They never missed a chance to remind me how grateful they were, at least at first. "You're doing the right thing," Rosa would say, with a smile thin enough to make me forget how hard it was. "You're finally contributing your share," Javier added once. And so, contributing my share, I became the unmentioned third provider of the house. The child who did his duty. But it was never just the mortgage. It was also the groceries when the fridge mysteriously emptied. It was the deposit for Lucia's wedding when her fiancé accidentally maxed out his credit card. It was the car repairs, the heating bill, the vet bill for the dog. And every time I tried to set a limit, they twisted it. "You're being selfish," Rosa would say. "You think you're better than us?" Javier would sneer. Even Lucia would chime in. "If you didn't want to help, you shouldn't have offered." But you know what? I never offered. Not really. I just kept saying yes because that's what you do when you're trying to earn a love that's always been out of reach. You see, I was the accident. The oops child. Born 8 years after Lucia, 5 after Alvaro. Both adored and praised like trophies. Alvaro was the athlete, the golden boy with a scholarship and a smile to spare. Lucia was the social queen, married young, Instagram perfect, with enough drama to sell her life as a Netflix miniseries. And me? I was the spare. The one who should be grateful they didn't abort me. I overheard Rosa say that once. I think she thought I didn't hear. And maybe that's why I tried so hard. Paid so much. Kept quiet and kept going. I believed if I worked harder they would see me. Maybe even love me. Instead they saw me as useful. A tool. Piggy bank with legs. Things started to shift the day I asked for a favor. Not even a big one. I had just gotten out of the hospital after unexpected surgery. Insurance covered most of it, but I was out of work for weeks. Rent was looming, and I was still dipping into my savings to pay their mortgage. So I called. Hi, I know this is awkward, but do you think you could help me with part of next month's rent? Just for 1 month. I'll make it up to you. Silence. And then Javier laughed. You make more than we do in a whole year. What happened to your savings? I've been helping you for years, I replied. Don't guilt trip us, Rosa snapped. We never asked for this. You offered. I stood there stunned. I offered because you said you were going to lose the house. We would have found a way, she said coldly. You chose to get involved. It's your problem. I couldn't sleep that night. Not just from the physical pain, the sutures still fresh in my side, but because for the first time I really saw them. Not as struggling parents, not as victims of circumstance, but as people who saw kindness as weakness, who used guilt as a weapon, who measured love in euros. I started to notice other things too. Lucia, who once cried to me for help paying her car payment, posted a picture on a terrace in Venice. Champagne designer bag location tagged. Javier, who claimed he was barely making ends meet, bought a new sound system for the living room. And when I mentioned it, now you're keeping track of what you give, he yelled. What's wrong with you? We're family. They weren't taking advantage. I was done being used. But the moment it all exploded, the true breaking point was during a family dinner a few weeks later. Lucia had just arrived, beaming, showing off her new engagement ring from her second fiancé in 4 years. My parents applauded. Everyone praised her. I sat silently drinking water. Then she turned to me. By the way, she said with a smirk, Mom told me you're still paying the house. How sweet. Everyone laughed. I didn't. Javier looked at me and grinned. About time you did something useful. That's when I got up. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw my glass. I didn't slam the table. I just looked each of them in the eye and said, I made the last payment last week. The house is officially yours. There was a pause. A flicker of something, confusion, gratitude. Then Rosa spoke. Well, I guess that means your job here is done. I blinked. My job? You mean my life? I replied quietly. Because that's what I'd given them. She didn't answer. So I nodded and started planning. I didn't sleep the night before. I stayed awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every insult, every manipulation, every fake smile I'd forced myself to wear just to survive another year inside their twisted idea of family. My stomach churned, not with nerves. I wasn't afraid anymore. It was a rage I'd held onto for too long. I had the letter printed. 2 lines. That was enough. I folded it, tucked it into a white envelope and slipped it into my coat. When I arrived the next morning, Rosa was already setting the table. Javier was in his usual spot by the window, reading the newspaper like it wasn't 2025 and that habit hadn't died a decade ago. Well, she said without looking up, you finally came. I said nothing. Just placed a box of pastries on the counter like I always did. Old habits. Didn't think you'd bother, Javier muttered. After all, you've already done your good deed. That's how they saw it. Like I dropped off a package. Not years of my life. Sit down, Rosa said curtly. We need to talk. I pulled out a chair and sat. Calm. Controlled. Lucia arrived 5 minutes later, wearing sunglasses inside, like she was hiding from the truth. She barely glanced at me, then smirked. So this is your redemption tour? I looked at her. No. This is the end. Javier folded the newspaper. We got your little message about the mortgage. So you paid it off. Great. You want a parade? No, I said, reaching into my coat. I want clarity. And then I placed the envelope on the table. No one moved. And what's this now? Rosa asked suspiciously. Go ahead, I said. Open it. Javier picked it up, broke the seal, read the first line, then the second. His face didn't just fall. It crumbled. Rosa leaned in to read it too. Silence. Then she whispered, "You wouldn't dare." "Oh," I said, looking directly at her. "I did." "You're lying," Lucia spat. "More of your melodramatic drama." "Are you sure?" I asked. "Because you might want to talk to Banco Hispano, or the Alicante Property Registry, or the lawyer who handled the transfer." "What transfer?" Javier said, his voice low and tight. I smiled. Not with cruelty but with liberation. "I signed the deed. Not to you. Not to her. To the only person who never asked me for anything." Rosa went white. "You gave away our house?" "No," I said. "I gave away my house. Because that's what it was. Legally. For 2 years." Lucia blinked. "You wait, what?" "I didn't just pay the mortgage. I refinanced it. In my name. With your credit history you didn't even qualify anymore. I got tired of covering. So I made it official." "You stole it." Rosa shrieked. "Thief! You tricked us." I laughed. "No. I paid for it. Every month. Every cent. While you humiliated me, insulted me, and called me a disappointment over Sunday dinner." She stood up. "This is a betrayal." "No," I said, standing too. "These are boundaries." Rosa looked as if she'd been slapped. You think this makes you better than us?" "No," I replied quietly. "I think this makes me free." Then I turned to Lucia. "Want to know where you're going to live now that the house isn't in your name anymore? Ask your ex-husband. He has more dignity than the 3 of you combined. It's to him that I signed it over." "What?" she gasped. "That's right. He's putting it in a trust for the kids. The ones you never think about when you're too busy drinking and playing the victim. You have no shame." She tried to lunge at me but Javier held her back. "You ruined us," Rosa screamed. "No," I said, walking towards the door. "I stopped you from ruining me." Javier pointed at me, his face red with fury. "If you walk out that door, I'll be the same son I've always been to you," I said calmly. "Absent. Unwanted. Unloved. But finally free." And then I left. For the first time no one followed. No guilt trips. No fake tears. Just stunned silence and the sound of the door clicking shut behind me. When I closed that door I thought I'd feel guilt. Instead I felt light, like someone had finally cut the rope I'd been dragging around for years. A rope tied to expectations, shame, and debts I never really owed. I drove back to my place, windows down, the air rushing in like I was breathing for the first time. My phone buzzed incessantly in the passenger seat, lit up with messages from Rosa, Javier, unknown number, Lucia, the golden girl. I didn't answer. Not that day, not the next. The silence from my end drove them crazy. By Tuesday, Lucia was posting veiled threats on Facebook about thieves in the family and people biting the hand that feeds them. I almost laughed at that one. "Feeds? Please." Then came the message from Javier. "You better fix this. I swear to God, we'll take you to court." So I sent him a picture. It was an image of the transfer deed, notarized, stamped, and signed over to the Santiago and Adriana Family Trust. Beneath it I wrote, "Explain to the judge why giving a home to your grandkids is illegal." "I'll wait." He didn't respond. And then a week later the truth bomb dropped. Ivan texted me. Ivan, Lucia's husband, the only decent man to set foot in that family and survive. "She's losing it," he said. "Tried to alter the trust. Already called 3 lawyers." I replied, "She won't succeed. It's ironclad." His reply, "I know. That's why I wanted to thank you." That one hit me. No one in my family had ever said thank you. Not once. Not for paying the mortgage, not for bailing them out, not even for giving them my youth playing the family banker. I stared at that message for a long time. And then something inside me healed. 2 weeks later, someone knocked on my door. It was Rosa. She looked smaller than I remembered. Same expensive coat, same tight bun, same pursed lips, but without the power she used to wield like a weapon. "Can we talk?" she asked. I crossed my arms. "About what?" Her eyes flicked briefly behind me, as if she expected me to invite her in. I didn't. She sighed. "We didn't mean what we said. We were angry. Confused." "No," I said. "You meant every word." More than once. Don't backtrack now. Lucia isn't eating, she said barely above a whisper. Barely speaks. Says you humiliated her. She humiliated herself, I snapped. For years. In front of everyone. But I was the only one who dared to say it. She says she's afraid. That she could lose custody if she seems unstable. Maybe she shouldn't have mocked the only person keeping her afloat. Silence. Then Rosa finally asked the question I've been waiting for. Why did you give the house to Yvonne? I looked at her steadily. Because he's the only one who never lied to me. Because he sat through all your dinners and felt just as uncomfortable as I did. Because when I signed that last check and wondered who deserved something good, he was the only one who came to mind. Her eyes filled with tears. He's still my son. No, I said. I was your investment. And the moment I stopped yielding returns, you tried to discard me. She reached out to touch my arm. I stepped back. You're not welcome here, I said softly. Not until you apologize. Not until you stop turning love into a transaction. I was just trying to keep the family together. No, I replied. You were trying to maintain control. And with that I closed the door again. But the fallout didn't end there. My brother, who had remained silent all these years, finally texted me. I always knew you were different. I wish I had your courage. I didn't respond. Yvonne called again. Said he was meeting with a financial advisor to protect the house long-term. Asked if he could include my name on the documents out of respect. I told him no. You don't owe me anything, I replied. It's theirs now. That's all that matters. He paused, then said the one sentence I never thought I'd hear from anyone in that circle. I wish you were their father, not me. That one broke me. Not with pride, but because I understood something. All these years I thought I was weak for not being loved. But really I was just surrounded by people too broken to love. The day I moved into my new apartment, small, quiet, entirely mine, I unpacked a single box. Inside were 3 things. The first mortgage receipt I paid. A picture of me at 16 standing behind my parents as they beamed at Lucia's graduation. And the notarized deed, bearing my signature and the names Santiago and Adriana. I framed it. Not out of pride, but as a reminder that I don't have to keep running into burning buildings. That love shouldn't look like sacrifice. That freedom sometimes comes in the form of a simple sentence. I don't owe you anything. Some mornings I still wake up expecting my phone to buzz with another demand. Can you cover the electric bill? Your sister's car broke down. Your mother is stressed. Send flowers. But then I roll over and there's just silence. Deep, peaceful silence. My new apartment is small. Just 1 bedroom, 2nd floor. No elevator, creaky floors, and a leaky faucet that no landlord seems to be in a hurry to fix. But it's mine. Entirely mine. No strings. No unspoken expectations. No one knocking on my door to ask me what I've done for them lately. And I swear even the air feels different. Cleaner. Sharper. Like freedom. The funny thing is I thought I'd feel guilty. That I'd spend sleepless nights wondering if I'd gone too far. If I'd been too harsh. If maybe, just maybe, they were right about me. But the guilt never came. Not after what they said. Not after what they did. Not after how they twisted themselves into knots to justify their behavior. There's no nobility in staying when love means destroying yourself. That was the hardest lesson. Because for years I thought loving was enduring. That taking the hits, sacrificing my joy, always saying yes, that was being loyal. That was being good. But now I think being good means knowing when to stop the cycle. Being good means choosing truth over comfort. And sometimes being good means walking away. I don't talk to them anymore. Not Lucia, not Javier, not even Rosa. The last message I got from her was 2 months ago. A voice note. I don't even know why I listened to it. She sounded tired. Slower than usual. This time there was no anger in her voice, just bitterness. We gave you everything and this is how you repay us? You were supposed to make us proud. I didn't reply. But I did whisper something to myself after I deleted it. You never gave me anything. And I'm done paying a debt that was never mine. I still talk to Yvonne. He sometimes sends pictures of Santiago and Adriana running around the garden, climbing the tree I used to meticulously trim with the lawnmower when I was 16. There's a swing set hanging from one of the branches now. He built it himself. Tell them their uncle gave them this house, he told me one day. He thought they deserved a safe place to grow up. I didn't know what to say. Just stared at the picture of the two kids laughing on the porch where I once thought I would die inside. I still don't consider myself a hero. Heroes wear capes. I just wore exhaustion and a fake smile. But maybe, just maybe, I broke the pattern. Maybe I was the first one in our family to say enough. And maybe that's worth something. A few weeks ago, I ran into someone from high school. A guy named Ruben. I barely remembered him. We had coffee, talked about the good old days which weren't actually that good. And then he said, out of the blue, "You were always the quiet one. People underestimate you." I smiled. They still do. He laughed. Don't. It's a superpower. That phrase stuck with me, because for the first time in my life I don't feel small, or forgotten, or desperate to be seen. For the first time I feel solid, grounded, like I finally belong to myself. Sometimes people ask, will you ever forgive them? And the truth is this, I don't know. Forgiveness doesn't always mean letting someone back in. Sometimes it just means letting go of the weight. I don't hate them. I don't wish them ill. I simply don't owe them a place in my life anymore. And maybe that is my forgiveness. Not revenge. Not reconciliation. Just distance. Quiet, unwavering distance. And now? Nothing dramatic. I'm learning to cook badly. I go for walks without headphones, just listening to the world. I'm reading again. I sleep through the night. I even booked a trip. My first real vacation. No guilt. No conditions. And yesterday I received a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single typewritten line. We were wrong about you. No name. No apology. Just that. I looked at it for a long time. Then I folded it, tucked it into a drawer and smiled. Because I didn't need their forgiveness. I already had what they could never give me, dignity, freedom, and finally, peace.